This is just me trying to wrestle with the scripture. How is it that John goes in and sees and he believes and then he still doesn't understand? What is that? How do I reconcile that? For me, and again, I'm not dying on this hill, I'm just telling you where my thoughts are. I think John goes in, and we know the image has been getting lighter through the years. They just did a restoration project last year trying to preserve it. And I think they put, what's that stuff that you put on fabric to keep it from staining? Oh, Scotch Guard. Scotch Guard made a, good one, man. Scotch Guard, they made a special Scotch Guard. That is old school right there. They made a special version of Scotch Guard that actually went on that to preserve it. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. But anyways, I think John goes in and he finds the cloth laying there. And he looks at the cloth and he knows in his first century mind, something's just, he pulls it, because remember, he wouldn't have seen it on this side. And the cloth wasn't unfolded. The cloth, he came straight through that cloth, and here's how we come to that conclusion. If he had taken the cloth off of him, there would have been specks of skin stuck all to it, because when you put cloth onto an open wound, it dries, the cloth sticks to it, and then tears the open wound when you pull it off. There's no skin on any of the woundings, on all the blood marks and stuff, there's no skin. He had to have passed through that cloth. So John comes in, he's like, where did he go? He pulls it back, and there's an image of Jesus on the cloth. And even in his first century mind went, what in the world is this? Rolled it up, and something made him believe, but he still didn't understand. Until he met the risen Christ, he still didn't understand. So here, that's where I think I can reconcile that scripture. But this is where it gets deep. Barry believed the bred blood. This is like, again, sharing this part on Easter, just God help me. So Barry goes in 1978. He and Alan Adler are turning the corner, and when they get in to see the shroud, and this is, I actually like displaying it. I have a couple of different ways I display this. This is my favorite because this is exactly what they saw. You can see the numbers coming across and the letters going up, across and back down, and so that they could section it off in section 812. We're going to look at this, we're going to examine that, or section, 12B, we're going to look at it, like an archaeological dig site, they're going to section it off like that. So I like this look the best because it's the most accurate to what they saw. So they turned the corner in 1978, and this is what they saw. And when they saw that the blood that was on the cloth still had a reddish tint to it, he and Alan Adler both simultaneously said, it's a fake. I said, well, why would you say that? He said, well, everybody knows that if blood bleeds out, it's going to oxidize, and it's going to turn nearly black. Blood doesn't stay red, so whatever this is, it's a forgery because the blood is red. And I said, okay. Because this is where the question started. I asked Barry, I said, Barry, why have you given your whole life? I mean, up to this point, it's nearly 40 years of his life has been spent on this. Again, he's one of the world's leading speakers on the authenticity of this. He's not ashamed about it. He's like, no, I'm trying to convince you this is the burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth. Did you notice I didn't say Jesus Christ? You know why? Barry's a Jew. He says it the best. He goes, I've got no horse in this race. I'm not trying to convince you it's his burial cloth because I need you to be saved. I don't even know what that means. Don't care. I just find God's humor that the world's leading expert on the authenticity is a Jewish person who doesn't care. But he's followed the evidence for 30 years. And that's why he convicted me to take certain things out of my presentation that weren't peer-reviewed, because he said, you're doing a disservice to the Shroud. The peer-reviewed science is all you need. You present the peer-reviewed science, it stands on its own for what it is. And so this is where I got to the question, why do you believe this? And he told me this story. He said, we turn the corner, we see the blood's red, both of us. Alan Adler's also a Jew, worked for NASA, also a Jewish man who doesn't believe Jesus to be the Christ. And they turned the corner and said it was fake because of the red blood. And he said, all of a sudden, 30 years later, I get a phone call. I'm driving down the road, and it's Alan Adler. He says, hey, man, how you doing? He said, Barry, are you sitting down? He said, I'm driving. He goes, pull over. Barry pulls over. And he says, Alan, what? I'm stopped now. And Alan said, Barry, I know why the blood's red. And Barry said he saw 30 years of his life just flashed before his eyes. He said, what do you mean? Well, Alan he was doing some mixed research with body farms. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of body farms, but that is the craziest job in the entire world. You can donate your body to science, and after they extract your organs that are good, they take the remainder of you and put you lying in a bed, under a tree, in the woods, in the water, in the trunk of a car, all these different scenarios, and then almost minute by minute document the decomposition process as it happens within the, I know, it's just like, could you imagine, what do you do for a living? Well, let me tell you, I hope you wash your hands today. I mean, or what is that god-awful smell? I couldn't imagine like having that job, but the fact of the matter is, it's a good thing, because now when they find a body in the trunk of a car, an investigator goes out, they can use reverse forensics and say that body's been there for 2.5 weeks. And that way they can pin back the almost the exact moment of death on a cadaver, a corpse, because of the research that was done at the body farms. Well, here's what Alan found out. Body farms, when they take them, they put these cadavers, these corpses, into these certain scenarios. The corpses who had had a traumatic trauma, suffering, massive blood loss, whether it be decapitation, loss of limbs, just whatever it was that ripped their flesh open. Sorry, are there any tiny kids in here? I didn't see tiny kids going on. No tiny kids, amen? I'm just, okay. I don't need them hearing this, but when the body is ripped open, it can only produce so much blood so fast. And so when the body went through a traumatic experience and for whatever reason was torn open to the point where all the blood was poured out, as the victim's dying, how many know God is just amazing? Amen. And has created us just in the most amazing way? Well, even unto death, His creation won't stop. The heart is trying to say, I need to pump blood through these veins to keep life going. Right? And so here's what happens. When a traumatized victim is on their last breath, the body, in its most amazing way, actually goes down through the liver, pulls out something known as bilirubin. Pulls bilirubin, which is kind of a serum. Are there any doctors in the house? Because every time I give this, doctors are going, yep. And because it's the most amazing thing. Pulls, because it's, like I said, the body's, unto death, is trying to fix itself. That's amazing. Goes into the liver, pulls out bilirubin, and bilirubin gets pulled up through the heart and pumped out through what's